Thank you, Mr. Peeples.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Derek Peeples. I'm a veteran advocate for many veterans, and actually tonight I share with the frustration and many concerns that many veterans here also equally share. USA Today, they had a newspaper article here about the VA and building trust. Well, many of the concerns here that many veterans here share regarding a countless number of issues. I won't be the first one to say this, but the board and many of the leadership, as well as patient advocates, they all know, and veterans know, you cannot build trust if you do not accomplish the mission that the VA, the VHA, and the VBA were established for, and that was to provide veterans the medical care that they deserve, and also the disability compensation that they are entitled, that they are owed, that is medically and legally supported. Now, I won't share with you what's already known in the news media, but as many as you know, they had the recent OIG scandal that just broke out in September. Over 307,000 veterans, let me reiterate that, 307,000 veterans reported by the OIG on the waitlist scandal have died before they can enroll to get VA care. Building trust, I think the VA has a long way to go on that. There are many veterans that are here from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Cold War, etc., to present-day conflicts. Veterans, we've heard stories here tonight. Still, veterans are still inadequately not getting both the medical care and also the compensation that they are entitled, that they're owed. And this is something that the agency of the VA, the bureaucracy of the VA, when the government established the VA, this is the original intent and purpose when the VA was established for. I'll share with you a personal story. I had served almost 3 years in the Navy. I had raised my right hand, just as much as many of you in the same room, to take an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution. While honorably serving this nation, I was injured 5 times on active duty. One of those incidents, to this day, the VA still, to this day, does not recognize the domestic terrorism. Having been injured on active duty, it is all my medical
Is that okay if I get it on
it is all my medical records. I had made the paper with Congressman David Jolly last year over issues plagued by the VA system. I had spent year after year after year trying to get VA medical care that doctors here at this facility have numerously recommended. No VA facility in the state of Florida or Georgia in Division 8 could recommend an outside source care. It had to be sent to the private sector. What did the VA do on this issue? Numerous times, the fee basis program, which was later renamed NVCC, they had denied multiple times those appeals and requests that were sent out for care for my military service-connected injuries. Over that time, the VA then administratively closed my claim without regard of the pain that I was in for year after year after year. Like in the military, I had to spend thousands of dollars out of my own private pocket, serving on active duty, defending this nation, to prevent my leg from being amputated. And then I returned over to the VA system after being honorably medically retired. 4 years from the time that I made the paper with Congressman David Jolly, which he has done a lot for veterans. And I think that amidst the scandal building trust with veterans, there are a lot of good VA employees that work here. Mr. Gathright knows I've complimented many VA employees that work here. The problem is not that you have a system that's designed, the focus needs to be on veterans first and foremost. And until you get that, you cannot build trust. Until you can recognize their service, you cannot get trust from the veteran until you recognize their service, which is in their medical records. In which tonight, I just regrettably like to report that my father, Francis Peeples, he had passed away September 3rd. Here's his death certificate. I had brought up patient safety concerns, Ms. Clinker, to your office about some of the patient safety concerns I had with Mr. Rodriguez. I followed up with Mr. Rodriguez, the patient advocate supervisor. Really nothing's been done. I have obtained all my father's medical records. We've done a private autopsy. And unfortunately, the VA has made many wrong errors and mistakes on my father's death that occurred wrongly. The VA did not even diagnose his heart condition and the blockage that he had. He reported to the ER what is a fact on his file. The VA non-interventional cardiologist numerous times, my concern, would not be called upon to report. And even though that the medical professional staff, they called the particular provider that was on duty through the ER numerous times, mind you, and this is recorded in his record, and you can look this up. The non-interventional cardiologist cannot be contacted. They didn't have his phone number. My concern, since my father has passed away, he was not afforded heart stents in a timely manner because of the blockage, and they didn't even diagnose his blockage. My concern, ma'am, sincerely, Ms. Flinker, to you, what is being done when it comes to medical professionals when their number's on file? Is there going to be a system to check up, to review, to make sure that there's accurate measures in place to verify that the professionals that are on duty for a particular weekend, when a veteran reports to the ER and they die, is that going to be addressed? Is one of my many questions that I have. That's from the DHA side. And also from the DHA side, Ms. Flinker, we had a personal meeting back in January 2nd this year regarding medical malpractice in my case. And I had brought up to you about the addendum about a chief physician, Dr. Vasquez, who falsified my VA medical record pertaining to the atrophy in my right leg. I've had over 5 inches of muscle mass wasting difference on my legs. The comprehension exams, they've noticed also with my primary doctor, the falsification. I filed the addendums. What I want to know is what has been done when you have a chief physician that's supposed to take care of veterans, when they falsify the records and won't even change those records like I had requested. And then when it comes to prosthetic issues, I won't be the only veteran to tell you, but when it comes to the prosthetics department, I have numerous times tried to get an issue resolved with my prosthetic. The prosthetic that I walk with here today, since making paper with Congressman Jolly, I had to pay out of my own pocket for my initial prosthetic. My prosthetic, as you can see, it is busted. I've had straps that have busted. I was promised a prosthetic card, which I have here. I have followed up with the prosthetics department 3 times from March this year. It took until September to get that card that was promised to me by your chief back in December last year. When it comes to prosthetic issues as other issues, I think that the bureaucracy of the VA system unfortunately sometimes fails veterans. Yet they have all these measures in place to fix a very simple issue, to get a simple...
Really accomplished.
Well, let me look into it and see if that's...
Into giving the benefit of the doubt to this facility, I've given this facility more than ample enough benefit of the doubt to do the right thing. And when it came for continued medical care services through the NDCC program, to get a medical appointment scheduled in my primary year, I had requested that an appointment be scheduled sooner than 4 months. I all of a sudden received an appointment card slip through the mail 5 months later asking to schedule an appointment. Still no appointment was scheduled. I have no faith in building trust with the VA system that has failed me time and time again. And I'd like to say one other thing, if you don't mind. When it comes to the VBA, Ms. Flinker and Ms. Whitty, I have met with you, a subcommittee member from Washington, D.C., Ms. Laura Rogan, who's a personal friend of Congressman David Jolly in the subcommittee. She introduced me in front of my wife to you September, the very first town hall meeting, to get errors regarding my case corrected. The VA, weeks after I went to the news media, the VA waived my military time pay that I received for 3.5 years. The VBA still, to this day, will not honor my military service, as in 4 hood victims that were victims of terrorism. And when it comes to veterans' claims, I have in writing, September 4th, that the VBA admitted to errors in my case. I personally followed up with you and your staff. 14 months ago, since then, I know that you sit on the VA board, the My VA board. Recently you recited October 10th a news media article concerning about fixing veterans' claims and errors very quickly. That's how it was responded basically in the PR and the news media. I have several other veterans' cases. I sent you a personal letter that I dropped off to your staff November 4th, 2015, documenting this. My case, the VA still want to honor the loss of use of my leg. This has been going on year after year after year, and I'm not alone on this. Several other veterans that sit here still, to this day, do not get the disability benefits that they're entitled, nor the medical care benefits that they really should be owed. I have had through the VBA, I have proved right here my military retirement pay, the issues with ratings, decisions, the VA math doesn't even add up, etc., etc. When it came to denying my benefits time and time again, when it came to the VBA, medical conditions that were documented on active duty, the VBA, I've turned in documentation evidence time and time again. The VA attests that they have lost my records time and time again. I have had private opinions submitted on my behalf from the private sector, attesting to the complete loss of functional use of my right ankle. And I've had a letter here that was dated, just so you can look up, April 8th, 2015. And I'll paraphrase from this. Please note, as we informed you in a previous letter, we determined that subsequent treatment records cannot be located and therefore are unavailable for review. If VA subsequently obtains records, we'll reconsider it as though the records were in VA custody at the time the VA originally decided to claim. Then after that letter, I had a VA whistleblower send my records on a CD disc right here. I have met with the congressman several times on the issue of this very same matter. I've had from private opinions submitted on my behalf from private specialists, from the private sector who have tested everything. And still, what has came to be is that unlike the evidence reviewed in my file, the VBA has just completely dismissed the private evidence that was submitted from private providers and saying they reviewed Parkinson's. I do not have Parkinson's, man. My name is Francis Peeples. I am not Johnny Donut. I have other veterans' claims, you know, like Mr. Jeffrey Sherman, Mr. Hugh Adcock. Mr. Sherman, I know that you and I have had personal email back and forth about getting the effective pay and the total and permanent on his case. He has had whistleblowers from Atlanta sending the governmental paperwork, even the Nexus letter, the green and blue regional office forms attesting to his case. I have met with the congressman on these matters and other veterans' cases, and I'm just, like many veterans here, I'm appalled that the VA has the nerve to not only not recognize my service, lose my records when they've had my records all this time, take my retirement pay away when it violated my 14th constitutional amendment, and still sit here and thank me as other veterans for their service. I know that there's a lot of issues that have to get resolved, and I wouldn't be the first one to say this, but I think that leadership comes from top down, and that when it comes to resolving issues, sometimes before you can build trust, as in the case of what's retaliation against employees here at your own VBA and the VHA, we have to empower our VA employees that work here. They're on the front lines, and we have to empower our veterans. We cannot build trust until we can take care of our veterans. And our interests are not those of the bureaucracy of the VA. They're those of the veteran themselves. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Peeples. We're glad to see you here tonight, and I'm sorry to hear of your father's passing. You posed really three issues for our follow-up. Comments regarding Dr. Vasquez, the Chief of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation Service, I believe,
Ms. Vasquez.
is the individual you're speaking of.
Yes.
Yes.
And you would make a written request for a change in your medical record consideration. You asked about how our physicians and clinicians are evaluated, and there is a professional practice review that occurs when we look to hire someone, and then when we do their credentialing and privileging as an ongoing employee, and they all have performance metrics on an annual basis as well. And you mentioned prosthetics. You noted a delay in receiving that, but has that since been resolved?
Yes, and I followed up on that issue many, many times with many of the VA employees who have done the right thing. And it's just unfortunate that, like many veterans, if a veteran has to follow up on an issue 1, 2, 3, 4 times, they fall through the cracks that many times. I'm concerned. Many other veterans are concerned about the same issue. They shouldn't have to follow up that much.
I appreciate you bringing that to our attention as well as an opportunity, and I'll ask to Ms. Woody if she has anything to add.
too, I'm sorry about your father. I did receive your package in my inbox today. I have not had a chance to look at that, but I will do so tomorrow and act accordingly. Thank you.